This is my greatest comeback in chess probably ever. Not because of my low point in this game from which I came back from, but because of the payoff, the beauty of the combination in the end. This was played, coincidentally enough, during a Playing Viewers that I host on Twitch every Sunday. And it was against one of you guys. I was playing a viewer with the black pieces. So my opponent starts off with e4 and I go with e5. Now, generally during Playing Viewers, I can play just about any rating, but here I'm playing against a 2200 from Norway, could be Magnus. My opponent ensues with knight f3, to which I go typical knight c6 and then knight c3. A good way to confuse me in the early move orders of the game. And so knight c3 engages for a potential 4 knights, but I go with bishop c5, and this is called the 3 knights opening because there are 3 knights developed on the early stages of it. And now h3. I don't know what h3 is. I'm completely out of book. I'm clueless. I don't know what opening theory ensues now. I am improvising. So I go with d6, which is a normal opening move. Opening up my bishop, right? Just going through development things. Knight f6, castles should be okay. Bishop c4 is played, and now I go with the mistake knight e7. I should have gone with knight f6, a more attacking and glamorous piece, but knight e7 kind of chokes up my entire position here. And especially after this naughty knight g5, I find myself kind of in despair and having to give a pawn up just so that f7 is not en prise. Though there is another way to defend this f7 pawn which I had prepared against, which was castles. And here, ladies and gentlemen, I fall into a trap, an opening trap, yes. And here castles simply loses to queen h5. Queen h5 threatening checkmate on h7, but also threatening f7 a third time. I have to defend the greater threat, so h6 is played, and now knight takes f7, which was the best move, forces me to sacrifice my rook against this knight. This is called a positional sacrifice or the exchange sacrifice. Otherwise, I'm completely lost. My queen is attacked, and if I move it, there's a nasty discovered check on my king that just wins my queen. And you see the game review there disagreeing with me. I'm sure there's mate that's better. Here, probably this is better with mate. And yeah, it would be right in that case. So there's mate threats, there's queen threats. I have to sacrifice my rook against the attacking piece. And after bishop takes rook, king h7, white is completely better than me. I should be completely losing for the rest of this game. Look at my position. It's not looking good, Rev. d3 is played, very normal move, opening up the bishop, maybe for potential bishop takes h6 things. I go knight d4, counter-attacking as soon as I can, threatening to take on c2 and fork these 2 nice pieces to get back into the game. This forces a defensive move. I knew my opponent would see it, but it involves retreating an attacking piece and forcing it to defend its own camp. Now this gives me time to develop yet another piece, bishop d7, and after bishop e3, yes, developing piece. I don't see this that much as a bad, inaccurate move. Castles is ensuing. I think white should have just castled short here, but they can castle long. Anyways, they're completely winning. It's all good in the hood. I go bishop e8, attacking the queen, just hinting, nudging the queen to go back, and now I go with knight g6. Probably not the best move. I mean, this knight is terrible after the beautiful takes, and g3 is played. That plays really nicely against my knight, and my knight just can't access these dynamic attacking squares. Now, one thing that's really important about this trade is that I take with the bishop, so that my bishop always has eyes on this weak f2 pawn and on this weak b2 pawn. And this will be very, very important for later on in the game. My opponent goes with g3, as we know, and now queen f3 is played. I'm threatening checkmate in 1. Now, white can go with just about anything here that doesn't lose, and they do. So now I go with a5. Knight d5, attacking my queen and my c7 pawn, though this is a mistake because my opponent missed out on a crucial move that I have, given my last few moves that have created this special weakness in the white camp. So knight g6, right, created this g3 move that played against my knight, but okay, the g pawn has moved. And then queen f6 threatens mate and creates this queen e2 move to defend. It's all good and nice for the white pieces, though after knight d5 you realize that the white pieces took out their two pieces controlling this f3 square in the past three moves only. And so what do? I put a good piece on a good square. Queen f3, a dynamic move attacking this rook and also maintaining the pressure on this f2 pawn. Rook f1 is played. Now, the engine prefers rook h2, which is a very funky move, but okay, go with the passive rook f1. Now my pawn is hanging, but I see something that is kind of pretty and I attempt to play it out in the game. Here it goes. I go with a4 here, hinting at the bishop, but also giving white two options. The white bishop can go to c4 and be calm and nice, but this would give some little counterplay with a3, hinting on to b2 with this pin here, looks quite uncomfortable. Or white can be impatient for the first time in the game since they've won material. And this is the move, taking the free pawn that's been hanging all along. Knight takes c7, attacks my rook, forks my two pieces technically, while forcing me to preoccupy my rook with still defending the bishop, and then white would be winning here with taking two pawns and being up just more material. But here, I had something prepared. On knight takes c7, I ignore completely this attack on my rook, and instead I play this very interesting a takes b3. My pawn is attacking these two, my bishop is attacking these two, and suddenly my rook is greatly activated upon this a file of which it's called upon. Let's say c takes b3. Here I could open the c file for myself. I've won a piece. You know, if you take back my pawn, I've essentially won a piece. So I knew by taking this bishop that it essentially forces you to take my rook if you don't want it to be equal material or even small edge for the black pieces. So knight takes is played. And here, my bishop that I told you about in the beginning that was tucked away nicely on d4 and never taken care of, now can not only sponge up two pieces on f2, but can direct its pressure on this abandoned b2 pawn, attacking this rook and forcing it to move yet again. Another piece to move. Might I expose this, that my opponent should have castled in the 50 million moves they had before things got real here, and now they are reaping the negatives of not castling. Castle in chess. This rook is forced to move and goes to b1. This is like a really bad move because here I can completely ignore the attack on my bishop once again and play this really nice b takes a2, attacking this rook, and you can't take my bishop because I queen with a fork, forcing this queen move down, and it's checkmate with two queens on the board. So on takes, my opponent's rook has to move again, and look how just, oof, yeah, no. The king is now extremely claustrophobic in this position. And here, on top of this beauty that is setting the stage here, I now find an idea that is beyond expectations of this position. Funny enough, this idea has nothing to do with the two most ambitious pieces of this position, the pawn and the bishop. In this position, I play the lovely, the succulent knight f4. Knight f4 is like almost the everything move. It does everything at once. This knight paves the way for this diagonal to open, and also paves the way in forcing takes for this pawn to stop the block of this diagonal. These are very important factors to this move. This knight is threatening checkmate in one move, and if you try to prevent it with a dubious rook g1, I just have bishop c3, and you cannot take my bishop because I have checkmate, and I'm threatening checkmate here. It's completely over. So here, white had to take my knight. It's pretty much forced, and the follow-up is just art. Bishop h5. My queen and my bishop lay comfortably on this diagonal, hinting at the king. My opponent is up a rook and an exchange, but can't do anything about it. My opponent's material advantage is so great, yet so useless in this position. It falls to the great heights of my queen, bishop, bishop, and pawn. In this position, white can do nothing defensively or attackingly. If you try to trade queens, your rook is left astray and queen takes d1 is played immediately. If you try to make some air for your king, what ensues is the initial threat of this position that is also irremovable, which is bishop c3. The white pieces cannot, despite all their power, stop bishop c3, threatening checkmate. Not even sacking the bishop or threatening checkmate because we are pinning the queen here. You can't stop bishop c3 on the next move because checkmate, checkmate, and the queen is threatened all at once after one move. Talk about overpowered. And here my opponent does a squeamish, I don't know the word, it's a squeamish knight c7 move. And now I go with bishop c3, ignoring completely the fact that I have a super nice promoting a-pawn and sealing the game beyond any hope that the white pieces will ever seize my position with their extra material. This is not a comeback in which I lost my farm and my chickens and came for revenge to the wolves. This is a game in which I lost my chickens and my farm and I purchased the whole city.